The Detroit Pistons lose another game, this time to the Boston Celtics. They lose a late lead in the fourth quarter. What is the issue? Why are the Pistons losing games at the end of the fourth quarter? We'll break it down and talk about it in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Also, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Pistons Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with an all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter along with your Locked On Pistons podcast. In today's episode, I want to discuss how much Jaden Ivy really is impressing me through 3 games and how well he is playing. And then later on, we'll also preview the Pistons' upcoming game against the Miami Heat. But first, we have to start off with the Pistons' fourth quarter woes. So they are coming off a loss against the Boston Celtics where they had a 112-106 lead with around 4 minutes to go, and they ended up losing this game to the Boston Celtics. I was credentialed for this game, so I was in the building. Right off the top, I have to say this before we even get into anything about the game or the closing stuff, whatever. Before we get into any of that, I have to say, I got to clap it up for you guys. Because I've been to, ever since I've started covering the Pistons over the last few years, I was first credentialed in 2019. So over the last few years, I've been to quite a bit of games at LCA. I don't know if there's been a game that got at least that I was, I'm sure there was maybe another game that was more loud, but the games that I've been there, I have not seen a game or seen the fan base that loud as it was in that second half. That second half, especially in the third quarter, beginning fourth quarter, the crowd was so loud it was hurting my ears. I'm not joking at all. It was loud as possible. I could not believe how much the Pistons fan base showed up and showed out for this game. To be honest, I don't even think the arena was close to filled yet. I can only imagine once it gets completely filled, but it was loud as hell, and you guys deserve a ton of credit. I really do think the crowd played a huge part in why the Pistons were able to come back against the Celtics. Every defensive stop, I mean, it was just like blowing my ears up. So I wanted to give you guys some credit, man. That was a fun environment to be a part of this game against the Boston Celtics. But now let's get into what's going on with the Pistons. So, like I mentioned, this is now the third game. The Pistons have lost 2 games. They've had the lead late in the game and have not been able to close the game out. So that's now obviously have left a lot of people asking what's going on. Why can't they close these games out? And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation about what's going on at the end of these games. By the way, it's only a 3-game sample size. I need everyone just to calm down a little bit. It's 3 games. The Pistons have a very tough opening 10 games this season, like extremely tough. The fact that they have to play Boston on the back end of a back-to-back to start the year is grueling. That it's a tough opening schedule. It's just 3 games. There's 82 games in the season. Everyone needs to just relax a little bit. However, I do think there's a bit of misinformation about what's happening to the Pistons at the end of these games. I see some people saying the Detroit Pistons are going straight ISO. They're not running any actions. They're not running any offense at the end of these games. That's flatly incorrect. On my personal YouTube at Kuka Hill, I just broke down the last 4 minutes, each offensive possession the Detroit Pistons had over the last 4 minutes after they went up 112-106. If you guys want to see video proof of everything that happened, go check that out on my YouTube channel. But the Pistons ran offense throughout the end of that game. They got numerous good looks throughout the end of that game. They ran multiple guard-on-guard actions involving Jaden Ivy and Cade Cunningham that created advantages for Jaden Ivy, that created an advantage for Cade Cunningham, ended up getting open corner threes for a Tobias Harris, ended up getting an open wing 3 for a Tim Hardaway Jr. They got a lot of good looks within the last 4 minutes of this game. And within the last 4 minutes of this game, they also got a few stops. Now, they didn't get every stop possible, but they did get, I think, 2 or 3 stops within those 4 minutes. They had a chance to extend the lead over and over and over again, and they just could not do it. And why is that? This is going to sound, people probably are not going to like hearing me say this, but it really is just the flat out truth. Like, there's no, if you dig into the tape and actually break down each possession, it seriously has just come down to players making plays. There's nothing else you can say about it other than players just need to make the plays. For example, let's go ahead and break down these numbers from the fourth quarter. The Pistons had 25 points in the fourth quarter. Beasley had 9, Cade had 7, and Simone Fontecchio had 5. Before we actually go into that, I do want to say this. The Pistons lineup that really made this push at the end of this game was Cade, Malik Beasley, Simone Fontecchio, I believe Jaden Ivy was out there with it, and then Isaiah Stewart. That 5-man unit, they were lighting the Celtics on fire. They were leading defensive stops. They were getting out of transition. They were getting open buckets. They were feeding the Celtics. It was a questionable decision, I would say, of J.B. Bickerstaff to go back to Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. over Malik Beasley and Simone Fontecchio, who I thought both had a really good game, and Simone Fontecchio finally broke out of his slump through the first 2 games of the year. He looked really good in this game. But JB decided to go away from them and go back to Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. I think that was probably a mistake, but I won't claim that to be the reason why they did lose. I do think it was a mistake, though. And also, I'm not going to dive completely into it on this episode, but I think we're probably going to end up having a conversation about Isaiah Stewart needing to close games. Just briefly, I'll touch on it. The reason why the Pistons were able to turn it up on the Celtics defensively, in the first half, they were running a lot of drop coverage. If you don't know what drop coverage is, it's a pick and roll coverage. Ball handler comes off the screen. The big man guarding the pick and roll. He's not up at the level. He's not being aggressive at the ball handler. He's dropping back a little bit. He's trying to take away the drive, and he's also trying to take away the big man rolling. Well, when you go against a team like Boston who have pick and poppers, if your center is not going to get out on a closeout after they kick it back out, you're just going to give up threes for days. And that's what was happening in the first half. The Celtics absolutely destroyed the Pistons in the first half with threes. I thought they were going to break this season or the all-time record within 3 quarters. In the first half, they had 16 threes made. 5 of them were from Al Horford. And a good chunk of them were from Jason Tatum coming off the screen wide open because the Pistons were playing drop coverage. So the reason why the Pistons were able to really make this push defensively, they went with Isaiah Stewart. Now, they started doing it with Jaren, but it was obviously more effective with Stu. They started just switching across the board, which made it a lot harder to generate open threes for Boston and to take advantage of coming off a pick and roll for an easy, clean look. Their big men weren't getting as many open threes. Al Horford all of a sudden was not destroying the Pistons from beyond the arc. So I think you're against stretch bigs, against 5-out offenses, I think we're going to have a discussion about closing with Isaiah Stewart. They did it in this game, but I think it's a discussion that probably needs to be had. Either way, let's get back to the overall point of what I'm trying to get to here. Pistons, Malik Beasley had 9, Cade had 7, Simone Fontecchio had 5. Nobody else had more than 2. I'm telling you guys, it's just as simple as guys have to hit shots. Tobias Harris in this quarter, in the fourth quarter, was 0-4. He had a wide open corner 3. He had a good look at the rim. One of the possessions when they were up 112-106, they got the switch on Luke Cornett on Tobias Harris. You take that mismatch every possession. You got one of your better offensive players against one of the slowest footed big men in the NBA. Tobias Harris gets all the way to the rim, could have dunked it, could have done it with a reverse finish on the other side of the glass, went up lazily and got blocked by Luke Cornett from behind. That's a good process. You get the mismatch you want, you let your offensive player attack. Guy just has to make the play. Tobias has to make the shot. Jaden Ivy, they run a guard-on-guard action at the top of the key, pick and roll. Cade sets a screen on Jaden Ivy's guy. They don't switch. Derek White tries to fight over it. Jaden Ivy gets an advantage. Jaylen Brown then helps over because Jaden Ivy has Derek White beat. He kicks to Tobias Harris in the right corner. Wide open look. Tobias Harris misses. Another chance to go up by 9. Like, they got open shots. They had chances to win this game. Jaden Ivy gets the mismatch at one of these possessions at the end of this game on Al Horford. You got one of the fastest players in the entire NBA against Al Horford, who's been a good switch defender throughout his career, but is much older. And guards have a problem staying in front of Jaden Ivy. The Pistons will take Jaden Ivy against Al Horford every possession, every game. You get that mismatch, you attack. They have a wide open Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner. Jaden Ivy doesn't hit him. Like, they're running offense to get the mismatch they want. That's what happens at the end of games. You search out mismatches and you let your offensive players, your best players, attack and go make a play. The Pistons just haven't been able to make plays. They haven't been able to finish plays. It's not because they're isoing. It's not because they're not moving the ball. It's not because they're not running offense or actions. They are running offense. They are running actions. They are hunting out mismatches. Guys are just not making shots. Tobias Harris, I don't think he's made more than 2 shots in the fourth quarter all year. He has really struggled in the fourth quarter. Tim Hardaway Jr. was 0 of 2 from deep in this quarter. Really hurt the Pistons. They ran another action. Cade got blocked by Derek White. They ran a guard-on-guard action again. They gave the ball to Jalen Duren at the high post. Jaden Ivy set a back screen for Cade's man. If the guy switches, which is what they did or what they didn't do, if they switch, Jaden Ivy has the defender trailing, coming around for a DHO. You get a clean look at the rim. If they don't switch and try to fight over, you get Cade Cunningham, easy look at the rim. That's what happened. They got Cade to look at the rim. Derek White makes a hell of a play. He probably could have kicked it out to Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner, but Derek White makes an even better play. That's one of the better rotation blocks you'll see in the league this season. Off of that out-of-bounds play, they kick it out to Jalen Duren at the top of the key. Jaden Ivy comes up for a DHO. Jason Tatum gets caught sleeping. Jaden Ivy gets a clean look off at the wing three. He just misses. Like, the Pistons are running actions. They are running offense at the end of these games. Their players just are not hitting shots. I mean, it's as simple as that. So it goes back to what I said like a few episodes ago. I feel better about this team, despite them being 0-3. The fact that they were able to go toe-to-toe against the Boston Celtics, like, this is one of the better teams we're ever going to watch. Like, this current constructive Boston team is crazy loaded. The fact that they are able to fight back in the second half, take this lead, go toe-to-toe with them, and then have what I call good process at the end of this game, I feel better about this team at 0-3 start than I did last year. Last year, they weren't having good process. It was terrible all year. They got the shots they wanted. They got the mismatches they wanted. They got the possessions they wanted at the end of this game. Boston is just a better team with better players who made better plays. And when the Pistons got open looks, when the Pistons got the looks they wanted, their players just didn't hit the shots. So it's as simple as guys need to hit shots. I know that people want it to be more. People want it to be a bigger narrative. They're playing too slow. They're going straight ISO. Why aren't they swinging the ball? No, that's not what it is. They are running actions. They're running offense, and they're veterans. More importantly, I'll say that their veterans, most importantly, are not hitting shots. They need Tobias to be better. Last play, I'll say, and then we'll move on to Jaden Ivy, how well he's played. Jaden Ivy leads a fast break 2-on-2. They're up by 3 with a chance to extend it back to 6 with around a minute and a half left. Jaden Ivy gets to the paint. Drew Holiday knocks the ball out of his hands. Tobias Harris is right there, gets the loose ball. There's 4 Celtic defenders inside of the paint. Cade Cunningham is wide open on the left wing. There are 4 Celtics in the paint. Cade's wide open, left wing. Instead of kicking it to Cade, your best player for an open 3 at the end of this game, Tobias goes up, gets stripped again. Celtics come down, score a basket. Like, your offensive players, your veterans, you need to have them make plays when they're there. And they just haven't been able to do that. So I'll say this. We'll wrap it up here. I can live with good process because good process will eventually lead to good results. The Pistons generating open corner threes for Tobias Harris off of driving kicks from their best players. I mean, that shot you just have to live with. Like, you just have to. You can't sit there and say that's a bad shot. Tim Hardaway Jr. getting an open shot from a driving kick. Those are shots you have to live with. Getting Jaden Ivy a look at the rim. Getting Cade a look at the rim. Getting Jaden Ivy an open 3. Like, those are shots you have to live with. They just got to hit them. And if they do, we're sitting here with a different conversation. They just haven't been able to do that yet. But good process will lead to good results eventually. So that was a long segment, but let me know what you guys think about the Pistons so far in their fourth quarter woes. I really don't think it's like crazy fourth quarter woes. I just don't think their guys are hitting shots at this time. They're running the right stuff, I think. They're just not hitting shots. It is what it is. They go cold at the end of games. I don't know. If Tobias hits that corner 3, I think they win the game. I'm not going to lie to you. If Tobias hits that right corner 3, I think they win. But again, let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka how you guys feel. When we come back, Jaden Ivy has been incredibly impressive, and we'll break down what it is about his game that has been so impressive. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And I do want to mention to you guys again about the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. Head over to LockedOnDaily.com and subscribe to the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. I've had a lot of people say that they've liked it, that they think it's been a lot of really good content. So if you haven't already, go over and do that. I'll put it in the description down below on podcast and on YouTube. Also, subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at Cuckoo Hill. We'll be having game breakdowns after each Piston game. We've had one after each game so far. We'll continue to do that the rest of the year. So make sure you guys go check out that stuff. That's another great way to support us, the podcast, and myself. I really appreciate you guys. Despite the Pistons starting 0-3, and by the way, they are 0-3. They're going to get. They've played against not just good teams. They're playing against Eastern Conference finalists. Like, they went against Indiana first game, Cleveland, and Boston. This isn't just like normal good teams. They're going against like the best teams in the NBA to start the year. And they've been in prime position in 2 of those games. I don't know. I understand. I can't believe I'm the one doing this, but I don't know how you watch these games and don't feel better about this team leaving them. Yes, they don't result in wins, but you can't tell me you're watching these games and this team doesn't look infinitely better than last year. They're just going against the NBA champions. Like, I don't. If you're watching these games, they look like a way better team. Cade Cunningham looks much better than last year. And who we're about to talk about, Jaden Ivy, looks way better this year than he did last year. Now, I'll say the same thing I've said over and over. For those of you guys who have listened to the podcast for a few years, you guys know the way I look at the season, I break it up into quarters. First 20 games, next 20 games, next 20 games, next 20 games. So I look at the season in 4 different quarters. So you don't want to overreact to like a 3-game sample size. I mean, last year, the Pistons started off 2-1. Everyone thought it was, playoff season on the way, and then they lost 28 in a row. Like, things can flip just like that. You don't want to overreact to a small sample size. With that said, I don't know if there is any better way for Jaden Ivy to start this season as he has. He's carried over exactly what he was doing during the preseason over to the regular season. Him and Cade have not hit hit the 3-point shot at a high percentage. That probably is the one complaint. But honestly, I don't have any complaints for Jaden Ivy. Yeah, he's shooting 33% from 3. It's over a 3-game sample size. You'd like to see that go up a little bit. But everything else he's doing is so much better and so good. I don't care. I really don't care. The main question I think the Pistons had entering this year was, can Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivy play together? And not only can they play together, we're not talking just like survive with each other and just can't wait to get their own minutes together. Talking about, can they survive together? Can they play together? And can they make each other better when they're sharing minutes? Do they thrive off of each other? Because we hadn't seen that over the last 2 years. And so far, through 3 games, they have been the Pistons' best players by far. Cade and Jaden Ivy have been their best players, and the Pistons have been carried by them in these games. In that first game against Indiana, obviously we all know what Cade did. But Jaden Ivy had a really good game in that game as well. Did his thing. I don't think the first game was his best game. I think his best game was easily this past game. I think he's gotten better each game after Indiana. He did shoot 5 of 13 against Indiana. It wasn't his greatest game. Wasn't very efficient. But I thought in spurts did what he needed to do. Wasn't his best overall game. The last 2 games against Cleveland and against Boston, I thought he's played absolutely exceptional. He's kept the turnovers down in his minimized role with the ball in his hands. He doesn't have the ball in his hands as much as Cade, and therefore you probably shouldn't turn the ball over a lot. And he hasn't done that, which is a very good thing. In the last 2 games, he's hit 2 threes each game, 2 of 5, 2 of 5. So that's really 40% over the last 2 games. Again, this is an incredibly small sample size. But what I really love seeing from Jaden Ivy is this, and something that he did in preseason, we talked about it. He is absolutely thriving off of the ball. Absolutely thriving. I had a few of you guys reach out to me on my personal YouTube off the breakdown we did from the Celtics game and the Cleveland game. A few of you guys have pointed this out, and you guys are absolutely correct. How well he is playing against tilted defenses is remarkable. And when I say tilted defenses, what that means is he is making plays off of advantages created for him. So let's say Cade runs a pick and roll on the right side of the floor. The defense is tilted towards Cade. They're shifted towards the action where Cade is, where the action is taking place for the offense. Jaden Ivey's on the weak side. If you kick it to him or you swing it over to him, the defense is reacting now. They're like closing back out. The defense is moving around. That's not the same as going against a set defense and creating. He is thriving going against a defense on their heels, a defense that is tilted. He's dominating them off ball. Absolutely, whether it's hitting threes the last two games, or if it's cutting into an open space, whether it's an offensive rebound like he had at the end of the Celtics game to tie the game at 114, whether it's to cut into the middle of the floor and get an open mid-range, whether it's to catch the ball and immediately attack a gap. He is dominating teams off the ball, which is exactly what you wanted to see from him when paired with Cade Cunningham. That's exactly what you wanted to see. So he's playing exceptional off the ball. His finishing around the rim through 3 games has been greatly improved, has been way, way better. He's using his explosiveness, I think, a lot smarter. I think that strength that he's added, I think you really see it on just about every drive. He's had a few contact drives where he's keeping his balance and that strength is allowing him to he has improved body control is what I should say. He has improved body control on his drives when he absorbs contact, and thanks to the strength, he's absorbing that contact a lot more. So he's doing a fantastic job at just about everything you want from him. Finishing around the basket, attacking off ball, and the other thing that he is doing that this team is desperately going to need from him throughout the entire year is thrive when Cade's off the floor. Because right now, him and Cade are the life of this team. Like that's so through 3 games, those two are the life of this team. And when Cade comes off the floor, Jaden Ivey's staying. When Jaden Ivey comes off the floor, Cade is staying. They're being staggered. You almost always have one of them on the floor at all times, unless one of them's in foul trouble, which Jaden Ivey has found himself in foul trouble a few times already. That has to stop, because without him on the floor, when they have to go to a 10th guy, it's not looked good at all. When they have to extend guys' minutes, it has not looked good at all. They need him on the floor. So that's one thing. But in the lineups when he's by himself on the floor, the Pistons are not just getting blasted. There was one stretch, I believe it was Cleveland. The one stretch against Cleveland at the beginning of the 4th quarter against Indiana, against TJ McConnell, the Pistons lost those minutes. But outside of those 2 stretches, the Pistons have either been held above water or just have straight up won those minutes. And that's simply because they are having one of Cade or Ivy on the floor, and both of them are thriving when they're staggered. Jaden Ivey's doing everything you want from him. He's looked exceptional. And this game against Cleveland is the most locked in I've seen him defensively in his career. There was a good 5 possessions in that 4th quarter. He was having to guard Jason Tatum and was giving it his all. There was one play. It's going to be hard to explain this play, but he did this twice, and it was absolutely big-time plays. So I'm going to try my best to explain this. The ball's on the left wing. I believe it's Al Horford with the ball on the left wing. You got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the right side of the floor. Everyone else is on the left side. The action that Boston is trying to run, they have Jason Tatum setting a screen on Jaylen Brown. And the Pistons are trying to switch this action. But Boston is reading that they're trying to switch, and the best way to beat a switch, as Nekias Duncan says all the time on the dunker spot, the best way to beat a switching defense, slip. You slip every time. And what they were doing, Jason Tatum was slipping to the basket, and he was getting Jaden Ivey on his back, wide open at the rim. And you have a smaller defender, you slip, you got an easy look. Boston did that in back-to-back possessions. Jaden Ivey fought through it, got in front of Jason Tatum, made it a tough angle of a pass, turnover twice. 2 times it was a turnover. One of the times, I believe, led to a Jason Tatum technical foul. So he was fighting more on defense than I've seen him at any other point of his career. His finishing looks greatly improved. He's getting to the basket consistently. He's making better decisions. He's not turning the ball over as much in a lesser role. And he's absolutely doing a great job scoring the basketball. He's playing exactly how everyone wanted Jaden Ivy to play. How everyone that believes in Jaden Ivy thinks he can play, he's playing just like that. He's been exceptional to start the year. And that's why, despite the Pistons being 0-3, I feel really good about this team. Because the number one question looks good through 3 games. Cade looks way better than last year, and Jaden Ivy looks way better than last year. And plus, they both look great together. They've looked amazing together on the floor. That's exactly what you wanted to see from them. And it's looked good through 3 games. Jaden Ivy has been absolutely exceptional through 3 games. So let me know how you guys feel about Jaden Ivy through 3 games. Has he done what you wanted him to do? Or is there some things that you think he needs to do better still? Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. When we come back, previewing the Miami Heat game, but more than just previewing the Miami Heat game, previewing the next stretch of games for the Pistons and why this game against the Heat is so important. I'm a procrastinator. I wait to the last second with just about everything, especially when it comes to purchasing tickets, whether it's to my favorite sporting event, theater event, concert. I wait to the last second. It often screws me over, whether it be with the seats or the price, whatever. But with game time, it saves me all the time because it has last minute deals, again, all the way up to the last minute. But also, even after the event has started, game time has saved me numerous times with the best pricing on my tickets. As well, with you can see your seat within the app. No longer you get the tickets, show up at the event, and you're like, oh, not the seat for me. I don't know why I got this seat. This seat sucks, etc., etc. With game time, you see the view from your seat within the app, and you know whether that seat is for you. They also have the lowest price guarantee, and game time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game time also has a tremendous ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free to on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'll mention it again. Subscribe to the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. You guys will enjoy it, and it's another great way to support the podcast. And also, if you want to support me, go subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at Kuka Hill. I'll be doing breakdowns of the Piston games after every single regular season game. I really would appreciate that. The Pistons got the Miami Heat up next. And I don't really want to spend too much just previewing the specific game against Miami. I more so want to talk about how this game, the Pistons have to win this game. Or I don't want to say have to, because there's no such thing as a must-win at like Game 4. I don't believe in that. But this is probably the closest thing you can get to a must-win. And for this reason only. The Detroit Pistons opening season gauntlet is crazy. The Pistons were done no favors by the start of their season. This is what I tried telling you guys this before the year, that the start of the year was going to go rough. The Pistons were not given any favors to start the year. This is what their schedule looks like. They start off with Indiana. Then they have a back-to-back Cleveland and then Boston. That's 3 of the very best teams in the Eastern Conference. 2 of the Eastern Conference finalists. You have one of them in the back end of a back-to-back, and the other team that was going to probably go to the Eastern Conference Finals if it wasn't for injuries across the board to their entire team. You had them on the front end of that back-to-back. Like, just horrible scheduling. Next game, you got the Miami Heat, who don't seem to take regular season as seriously, but a team that we know can make the NBA Finals. We've seen them make the NBA Finals twice over the last, 5 or 6 years. So, or make it close. Yeah, they made it to the finals twice, right? They made it in the bubble. And then, they made it in the bubble, and then they made it against Denver. Yeah, twice. So that's a team that you have to absolutely respect, that is always considered a contender no matter what happens in the regular season. But that's why you feel like you maybe could get that win, because they don't seem to take it as serious in the regular season. The next game, they got against Philadelphia, who initially it sounded like Embiid and Paul George were going to be out. But now it sounds like, based on reporting, both of them will be returning against the Detroit Pistons if everything goes according to plan. Not great, especially with the Pistons' big man rotation against Joel Embiid. Just not great. Then, a day later, you got the New York Knicks. Like, another top Eastern Conference contender in the New York Knicks. You don't have an easy game until November 3rd against the Brooklyn Nets. And by then, if you don't beat this Miami Heat team, it's very possible you're going into Brooklyn down 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, 0-5, 0-6 going into Brooklyn. And I'll simply say this. Do I feel better about the team right now? Absolutely. I feel much better about this team right now than I did even before the year. Before the year, you guys know I wasn't that high on this roster and this personnel. But I feel better about them after 3 games. I think JB's done an incredible job on both ends of the floor, to be honest. And the 2 guys that are most important look really good. So I feel better about this team. But there is no moral victorying away. There's no amount of moral victories that I can give that will make anybody, including anyone on the roster, feel good about an 0-6 start. Like, that just, there's not going to happen. The best chance the Pistons have to avoid an 0-6 start is Miami. They have to win this game against Miami, or it's very likely they're going to go into Brooklyn 0-6. And then if they beat Brooklyn, they'll be 1-6, going into a back end of a back-to-back again against the Los Angeles Lakers. So it's not like it gets any easier. It's not like it gets any easier. You got another back-to-back against LA. The schedule then starts to soften up a little bit with some games you think the Pistons should be able to win, like the Hornets, the Hawks, the Rockets, the Heat again. Then you got the Raptors, the Wizards. You do have to play the Bucks in the middle of there, but then you got the Bulls, the Hornets, the Magic, the Raptors, the Grizzlies. Like, that stretch of games, I think this team, based on what they've shown me, should be able to split those games and have a good stretch there. But they have to be able to make it out of this gauntlet. They have to make it out of this first 8-9 games, not 1-9 or 0-9 or 1-8. They cannot go. They are not going to feel good about themselves, and the fan base is going to go crazy if they don't make it out of this gauntlet, at least winning 2 or 3 of these games. They have to find a way to squeak out those wins, which is why I understand the frustration of losing the game against Indiana and losing the game against Boston, because when you have this type of gauntlet of a start to the season, you have to take advantage of those type of games when you have a chance to win, because you're not going to come across those very often with the Pistons with this schedule. So this game against Miami, in Miami, by the way, they got to pull this one. They got to pull this one off. They absolutely have to. Or they could be going to Brooklyn 0-6 and no one will be feeling good. So let me know in the comment section down below if you guys agree or disagree with that, if you think that matters, if this is a must win at all. Again, comment section down below or over on Twitter at @KookHill. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button at the Locked On Pistons YouTube channel. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year. We're at around 8.8 thousand subscribers. So please, if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, if you're watching and haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Also, subscribe to the personal YouTube channel at @KookHill. Subscribe to the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter to go with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace out.